Hello, this is a quick video to show you some of the scripts I've been working on to use Qemu to emulate classic Mac, 68K Mac specifically. Code's all on GitHub, the scripts are all very well documented. Yeah, let's have a look. So I'm in the project folder here. There's a couple of scripts. There's the run 68K script, which will run a VM, and a separate script that will mount a shared disk image on the Ubuntu host, which you can then put files onto, and then fire up the VM and access that shared drive there within the guest OS. So that's how I plan to put my compiled programs for early Mac OS onto virtual machines to test them. But anyway, let's run, just show you how to use it, a 7.6.1 virtual machine. So I'm going to call the script here, run 68k.sh. The minimum parameter you need is to specify with a capital C a configuration file. So I'm going to use my 761 system 761 configuration file I have here. If you want to look at what's in there, essentially just specifying a name, what the machine is, how much RAM it has, so 256 meg of RAM, what ROM to use, the README's got instructions how to get hold of these, what main hard drive image to use, an image for the parameter RAM, what image to use for the shared hard drive, and how big that shared hard drive should be. If these don't exist, the script will create them for you using the correct tools, so then you can format them in the guest OS, and I'll show you that in a bit. You've got graphics, so the screen resolution and depth, and then some network settings, which I'll come to later. So I'm going to run this. That's the bare minimum we need. And you'll see the script runs. And by default, it's setting up tap networking, which means that if you run a second VM or a third VM, you'll actually be able to get things like AppleTalk working between the VMs and file sharing for that matter. So here we go. Here's the Mac booted, and you'll see you've got Macintosh HD and the shared drive, and yeah, it all works. Come here about this computer. So we've got 260 odd meg of RAM available, and if I shut this down, actually we'll leave that running. So this is our 761 machine. Let's do Control Option G to ungrab the mouse, and I'll come back to the terminal, another window, and I'll run a second VM this time using the same script, big C, and we'll run the system 755 config file. So if you want a quick look there, all we're specifying really is a different path, so it's a different hard drive this time with system 755 installed. So let's load that. You'll see the script has picked up that the bridge 0 already exists and is up, so we're going to join this VM to that bridge and they'll be able to talk to each other. And I can prove that to you by going to this machine. So there you go, system 755 this time, going to the chooser, clicking Apple Share, and the 761 VM appears here, so we can choose that. I'll log in as that user, so it's 761 VM. I've put a password on it for what it's worth. Click OK, and I'll mount just the main. Actually, let's mount both drives. And there they are, Macintosh HD and the shared drive, both from this machine running 761. And I can prove that by going to Macintosh HD. Let's duplicate this. And I'll call it about me instead. So I've got that file there, Control Option G to ungrab the mouse, go back to the other machine, and there you go. There's our about the file. If I delete it from this machine, so drag that to the trash, empty trash, yep, Control Option G to ungrab the mouse, and it's gone from this one. The neat thing is, if you shut these down properly, yep, that's one down, and two, you'll see the script tidies up the bridge networking stuff it's done in the background to get those two machines to talk. Let's fire them up again this time. In fact, just one of them, but this time without the bridge networking. The reason I've got these two options is that with bridge networking enabled, the VMs can talk to each other, but they can't access the internet. If you want a machine to be able to access the internet, again, you just run the same script, specify the config file you want. So we'll boot system761, but this time use a -n option and specify user as the networking mode instead of tap, which is the default. If we fire this up, you see this time the script, there's no output there about setting up bridge networking. The machine boots. And if I go to applications, networking, Netscape Navigator, that's okay. I don't think netscape.com exists anymore, but google.com does, and it will load kind of in Netscape 2. If I do a search for Apple, there you go, scroll down a bit, there you go. Yeah, Apple Intelligence, Severance. So yeah, it's connected to the internet. Again, if I come here and shut this down, session's ended and the machine's been safely shut down. If you want to share files between the guest OS and your host, there's a script for that too. So you can come here and run the Mac disk mounter script. Works in the same way. It goes off the same configuration file. So -big C system761, for example. Just hit return. That will do stuff in the background and mount the shared disk image on Ubuntu at the mount Mac shared folder. It'll create that if it doesn't exist. And just to prove to you it works, if I put made on Ubuntu as a folder name here, so we'll add that, close this window, run the same Mac disk mounter script again, but this time with a -u flag, and the same config file, that will unmount the disk. And then if we relaunch the Mac, so the 761 config file again, once it's up, and give it a moment. There we go, there's the shared drive, and there's our made on Ubuntu folder. So that's how I intend to get my compiled ThinkC apps onto the virtual machine. And then with the two different types of networking, I can either write apps that will communicate amongst themselves between the VMs or connect to the wider internet, in theory, anyway. So that's that. I could show you what you get in the box when you check out the project, because by default I don't include the Mac ROM or any of the actual disk image system installs. So you'll see here, say for 761, you've got the main hard drive, a image for the parameter RAM, and an image that's shared between the host. If these don't exist, you can run the script with any of these configs and it will create them, and then it's up to you to install your OS on them. So for example, if I rename the 761 folder here, the 761 old, so my config file now refers to a main hard drive image, a parameter RAM image, and a shared image that doesn't exist. I can come here to the script, run 68k dash big C system 761. So that's my file. Now I want to specify a CD to boot from. So what I've got here, and again this doesn't come in the repo, but the README tells you how to get hold of these. I've got the Apple Legacy Recovery disk in ISO format. So when we boot this machine, I want to use that config file, and I'll do dash little c and specify the ISO, and dash B to boot from that ISO. So you can specify a CD but not boot from it if you don't include dash B. But let's include dash B. There we go. And you'll see it set up the tap working by default again. Does a couple of bongs for some reason, but it doesn't matter. It works. So now we've booted from the legacy recovery CD. You don't see the hard drives on the desktop, but they are there. If we go back to the directory structure here, you'll see I've got now a new 761 folder that the script has made, and you can kind of see it in the output here as well. There you go. It couldn't find the shared disk image. It created the new directory for the PRAM file, created a new PRAM image. It couldn't find the main hard drive image, so it made an empty disk image there. And if we come to the Mac, we can go to disk utilities, formatting software, drive setup. Here's the two drives. They're just empty. They're not initialized. They show up as SCSI devices. So we'll initialize the first one. Yep. I'll initialize the shared image. And here they are showing up. I'll rename that one to Macintosh HD. Call that one shared. You can open them now. There's obviously nothing on there, but you can see one's about 250 meg, one's about a gig. If we come back to the legacy recovery CD, we can go to Mac OS 761, install 7.6. There we go. So I'll agree to this. We're going to install on Macintosh HD. Yes. And you could actually get really strict on what you install here, because obviously all the stuff for printers and other stuff isn't really needed. Nearly done. In go the fonts. You might think this is slow, but this is so much quicker than the old Mac I actually used to run System 7 on when I was a kid. So the installation is successful. We can quit. We can do the 761 update as well. Why not? It shouldn't take as long. Yeah, Macintosh HD, install. That's done. And we'll shut this machine down now. Come back to the terminal where we booted it, and this time we'll reboot it, but I won't choose the -B option here, but I will keep the -c pointing to the ISO file for the CD. So we enter there. That'll boot our Mac. Oops, I think there's something wrong with my script. Okay, I might need to check that. If I shut it down, I'll take off the -C, boot it again. There we go. And we've booted. There we go, rebuilding the desktop file. We've booted from a fresh install on Macintosh HD of System 761. So I'll go and fix that bug with the -B flag. I'll shut this down and leave it there.